I get accused of hating people a lot, and I suppose I can understand why. It's just far easier to accuse me of hatred than to actually understand the nuance. So we're going to put that matter to bed once and for all. Coming up next. Today, we're going to do yet another quick quiz, but there's a reason behind it, and we'll get to that in a minute. Mostly, I think we're going to learn some things and find out in the end if this was a worthwhile quiz or not. And judging from how many really terrible ones we've taken, I wouldn't be holding my breath. So, am I a misanthrope? Well, let's find out. So this is the test that we're going to take. It should be relatively short, and while I haven't gone through the entire thing yet, the first couple of questions I did look forward and they seemed okay. And that's a whole lot better than a lot of the other quizzes that we've done around here. Now, the real reason that I'm doing this, other than having a couple of side discussions, it's because I've gotten a couple of angry posts in the last couple of weeks saying, well, I hate people because I'm not a fan of religion. And this is going to prove that wrong, I figure, although really, who knows, I could be wrong. Plus, there will be other things along the way, I'm sure, so let's go get started. It's the only way to find out for sure. So, these are all questions on a 5-point scale, and here comes the first one. I did skip over a bunch of explanation on what misanthropy is, stuff like that, because I figure everybody watching ought to be smart enough to figure that part out. If you really want to read it, the link to the quiz is in the description as always, and you can go look at it for yourself. Anyhow, I detest human drama. Well, yes I do. Of course, that depends on what you mean by human drama. The kind of meaningless, childish bullshit that you find on the internet? Absolutely. That would get us strongly agree. If you mean something else, then, I don't know, maybe I care. It depends on the circumstances. I don't really know. So, because the teenage stupidity online is the first thing that I thought of, I'm going to go with that and agree, but not strongly because there is room for other things. I generally dislike other people. What other people? Define your terms. Do I hate stupid people? Well, absolutely I do. It's one of the reasons that this channel exists. Do I hate all people? No, of course I don't. Here's the thing though, if I actually hated all people, then this channel probably wouldn't be here. I just let the human species ride the fast track into the dustbin of history and not care at all. No, the reason that I do this, partially anyhow, is because I actually want humanity to change for the better. I want them to improve. I want to point out the problems so that they can say, maybe I should do something about that. There is room for them to get better. Of course, there is also plenty of space for discussion on what that improvement means. But you've got to start somewhere, and I think that beginning with a base level of rationality, that's probably the best place that we have. If we can't even agree that rationality or reality matters, then I don't know that we can get anywhere else, do you? So this one gets a disagree. My social circle is either very small or non-existent. Not true. Now, because I am an old fart, my social circle is certainly smaller today than it might have been in the past, both because some of the people that I've been friends with are now gone, or because I've pared it down to just the people who really matter. And I'm talking strictly about real life here. Online, I know lots and lots and lots of people. Most of them aren't friends, they're just acquaintances, but in the past, I might not have made that differentiation. I mean, today, if somebody on a social media site sends me a friend request and I don't know them in person, I'm almost certainly going to reject it. You're not a friend if I don't actually know you. That doesn't mean that I hate them, though. It just means that they don't fit into that category. There are a few that do, of course, but that tends to be a very small number. So, I don't know, disagree? I hate social occasions like parties and reunions. Well, not hate necessarily, but I generally don't see the point of them. Now, for reunions, for instance, I have never in my life been to a high school reunion. If I wanted to stay in contact with those people, I would have. And for some of them, of course, I have. I don't have to go to a reunion to see or talk to those people because I see and talk to them all the time. Now, a couple of months ago, we had a memorial for my wife's father, and at the memorial, her best friend from high school, she showed up. Now, I haven't seen her for probably 25 years, but my wife has her friended on Facebook, and they do talk all the time. She doesn't have to go to a reunion to see her, because she already does. Parties, I can take them or leave them. Like I said, I've already got plenty of people in my life. I have absolutely no need to sit around with a bunch of strangers, probably getting drunk, watching them all do stupid stuff. What's the point? I haven't really done a party, except the ones that we've thrown for friends at our place for decades. So, no, I don't hate them. I just don't really see the need. So I'm going to go with neutral. I mock other people's mistakes and failures. Absolutely, but it is for a purpose. I don't just laugh at people's errors at random. You have to go back to the basic purpose for the channel. It's to make these people better, smarter, more rational, better able to handle the real world. Now, if you can have a decent discussion with them, that's great. Do that. But if you can't, then often their only purpose is to serve as a teaching tool for others. Just look at how dumb this person is. You don't want to be that dumb, do you? Don't do what they're doing. Be better. Now, I wish that everybody could have an intelligent conversation, but I think we all know that just isn't so. It only takes 5 minutes going through the comment section on some of my videos to show that that is definitely not the case. These are people who don't live in the same reality as most of the rest of us do. Those people need to be mocked as an object lesson. It might get through to some of the people who aren't that far gone. Therefore, I'm going to say agree, I do, but only in select situations and only for specific purposes. The Earth would be better off after a global catastrophe that wipes out the human race. I don't know, maybe. Certainly, there have been plenty of detrimental effects that humanity has had on the planet, although you can probably say the same for any potential advanced species, and we absolutely don't need nearly the number of people that we have currently. So maybe something that cuts us back to something reasonable? I don't know. Now, generally, no, because I don't want humans to die. I want humanity around, I just want them to be a whole lot smarter than they currently are. So here I'm going to disagree. I have more common sense than those around me. You're going to have to define your terms. Who's around me? I mean, for the general populace at large, maybe. I mean, have you looked out there lately? I think most people are pretty dumb, although I think that's slowly changing as more and more people are getting advanced educations. We're starting to go in the right direction, although there are a lot of challenges that we still need to overcome. And it isn't just religion that's the problem. Readers of my blog will understand exactly what I mean by that. Can we fix it? Yes, I think we can. Will we fix it? That remains to be seen. So, sure, I guess I have more common sense than a lot of people out there. Not everybody. I'm not going to say that. I don't really have an ego. I'm just making an observation. Unfortunately, most people out there are really, really dumb. So, I'm going to go with agree. People can't handle my blunt honesty. And that's the first one I'm going to give a strongly agree to. I am an honest person. I always have been and I always will be. Don't ask my opinion if you don't want me to give it. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to purposely hurt people's feelings, but let's be rational here. If you ask me if that dress makes you look fat, and I think it does, then yeah, I'm going to say that it does. Maybe you need to try something else. Maybe you need to lose some weight. That's often a health concern after all. Here's my thinking. Would you rather go out there in a dress that makes you look fat and have everyone around you think, wow, they look kind of huge? Or would you rather have somebody tell you the truth so that you can make some better choices? Lying to people for no other reason than to spare their feelings, that doesn't result in any improvement. If you don't want to know, don't ask. Now, I may or may not volunteer that information. I'm not going to stop you in the street and tell you you look like a whale. But if you ask for my opinion, that's ask for it, I am not at all afraid to give it. I have no patience for ignorant people. It depends. If you don't know something and are willing to learn, then fantastic. I will help you in any way that I can to learn what you don't know, assuming I know it myself. If you're willfully ignorant, though, like most religious people are, especially apologists, then no, I've got no patience for you at all. These people ought to know better. They've had their failures pointed out to them so many times that they should have done some research by now to see if they are, in fact, wrong. They don't, because that's how they make money. They have ulterior motives beyond the truth, and the truth ought to matter. So, agree. The idea of fitting into my culture feels absurd. In a lot of ways, yeah, really it does. If you mean fitting in simply for the sake of fitting in. I can't tell you how often I see this. But it's my culture. Sure, but that's not an excuse for doing stupid shit. You are an individual. You have the power to choose. And this will probably piss some people off, but I've had these discussions, and a lot of these people, they're just dumb. I have had black people, for instance, tell me that going to jail and committing crimes and having tons and tons and tons of kids out of wedlock, that's just part of their culture. Yeah, well, your culture sucks. Doing those things pretty much guarantees that you will be a failure in life. You have a choice. Make a better one. You can also look at things like Islam. Wearing a hijab is part of my culture. Well, then maybe you need to have a better culture. You can't control what culture you're born into, but you can sure control just how much adherence you're willing to provide. Culture, like religion, is a control mechanism. It is designed to keep people subservient and doing whatever the culture or religion in question says. Some of that is fine, maybe it's even necessary to keep the peace, but if everybody just mindlessly follows along without ever asking any questions, then nothing ever improves, does it? So, agree, I guess? I tend to view myself as somehow distinct from the majority of the human species. No, strongly disagree. We're all human. I am no better than anyone else inherently. We all make choices, and some choices lead to better outcomes, demonstrably, than others. At the end of the day, we are all individually responsible for the sum of the choices that we've made, as well as some of the things that happen to us beyond our control. Life isn't fair, and anybody who thinks it is, they're idiots. But you do have a certain modicum of control over at least the grand trajectory of your life. If you get an education and generally make good life choices, you're probably going to wind up far better off than somebody who just does stupid stuff all the time. I mean, maybe not, there are no guarantees, but you do stand a much better chance making good choices than not any day. Others are merely going through the motions and following a script. Well, often that is true. I mean, we just talked about that in regards to culture. Look at religion. God told me what to do. How often do you hear that one? Or, this is what my culture expects from me. Yeah, okay, that's just dumb. You have to make your own choices that will give you the results that you want. Now, that doesn't mean that simply doing the opposite of what your religion or your culture says, that's going to get you where you want to go. That's why life isn't as easy as following a script. You have to know what you want, and you have to know how to get there. And figuring that out is tremendously hard sometimes. Laziness is never ever rewarded. So while I do think that there are a lot of people out there who are just going whichever way the wind blows, plenty actually make good decisions, and those are the ones who actually get somewhere. And there are plenty who make bad decisions, and they reap the consequences of that. So I'm going to go with disagree. I do not expect anything good from people by default. Well, it depends on what you mean by expect. Generally, I don't expect them to be good, although I think we should have that expectation that people are going to act in a generally good way. It just doesn't often work that way. Because I also don't expect anything bad. People will do generally what they think is in their own best interests, even if ultimately it isn't. Again, this plays into expectations a lot. Well, this is what God has in mind for my life. Then they wind up leading a congregation and figure out that over time their religious beliefs have just evaporated. Enter the clergy project to help these people who get trapped in the ministry out. Or with culture, well, this is what my culture tells me I'm supposed to do. And then you'll wind up in prison for life because you murdered somebody over supposed honor. Yeah, that's stupid. There is no honor in being a dumbass. The examples here are just numerous, and I'm sure you can come up with plenty on your own. This is what happens when you try to fit into somebody else's mold and never stop to figure out what you actually want out of your life. So I'm going to give this one a neutral. I think animals are better than humans. Well, that depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, I have this exact t-shirt, and for a lot of people, I actually do agree. There are a lot of really dumb people out there. People who think only of themselves, and they'd run you down in the road if they thought they could get away with it. I get really tired of self-centered, egotistical people. Animals don't do that, especially not dogs. What, cats? They probably would, but cats are assholes. Dogs are part of the family. They care about you. Some would die for you. I wish more people would be like that, although, I don't really want people to die, but you get the idea. So, agree, but not for everybody, just the really terminally stupid. I can spot negative tendencies in people and steer clear of them. Well, a lot of times, yes, for the first part, but not necessarily for the last. It's come from a lot of experience, especially when it comes to religion, to be able to see what they're going to say before they say it because it's so incredibly common. When I make these videos, I honestly have never seen the vast majority of them before, at least when I'm writing. And I don't go back and change my script if it turns out that I'm wrong. I just admit it. I don't know what all of the questions in this quiz are going to be beyond what's on screen right now, and at the beginning I did look one or two ahead. Unfortunately, because so many of these people are just following scripts, and literally so, they are pretty simple to read. You just have to know where they're coming from, and a lot of times I do. With enough experience, you will as well. That doesn't mean that I avoid them, though. I take on the crazies if I can, if I think I might do any good, or if I might use them as an example for others to learn from. That's really what I'm doing on this channel, after all. Therefore, I have to go neutral because the question, as stated, it really can't be answered any other way. I feel no need to impress people. Well, generally no. Now, granted, there are people that I do try to do good things for, my family, work, stuff like that, but that's not because I want them to like me, but because I care about them. Now, generally speaking, I really don't care. I'm just me, take it or leave it. It's why, for this channel, I don't really care that much about subscriber count. Sure, it would be great to get the message out to more people, but I'm not going to change my style or my ideas to suit a larger audience. And if you look at the advice most people give for growing a channel, it starts with the premise, stated or otherwise, that you're just doing something that appeals to a lot of people to begin with, just for the sake of appealing to a lot of people. But that's not me. If this channel stays small forever, so be it. At least I'm honest about it, so strongly agree. I experience feelings of disconnection from society. No. Sorry, no. I mean, I'll often look at society and wonder what the hell is wrong with people, but otherwise, no, I don't feel disconnected. Then again, I just don't care. Since I don't feel an overwhelming need to fit in on their terms, I don't really give a damn. I'm not a joiner per se. I don't do things so that I'm part of a community. I'm perfectly satisfied with a small circle of friends and acquaintances. I don't need mass acceptance. I don't care about being popular. I don't care about being liked. I am who I am, and that's what I am. Deal with it. So this one's going to get a strongly disagree. Finally, we get to this. To get along with others, I need to act normal, and it's exhausting. Nope. This is where it all comes together, though. I'm not looking for mass acceptance. I don't care. Who needs it? I'm not trying to be remembered forever. Who gives a crap? I'm happy being who I am, and I always have been. End of discussion. Now, I suppose it helps that I'm not doing anything that would get me into a lot of trouble. If I had lived in the Middle Ages, for example, I'd probably have gotten burned at the stake as a heretic because I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. But I don't really care if anyone likes that or not. Take it or leave it. Growing up back in the 70s and 80s, I was a geek and a nerd. I still am today. Loved science fiction in a time where that was kind of a fringe activity. I was a gamer at the time when the satanic panic was going on. Hell, I was a Christian gamer, and that was something else entirely. But I just didn't care. I just surrounded myself with people who were like I was, and we all just flipped off the world. Who cares what the world thinks anyhow? So long as you are being responsible for yourself and not hurting anyone else, what difference does it make? Strongly disagree. So here's my results, which tell me absolutely nothing. There are absolutely no explanations for any of this at all. It's just a couple of numbers. Yeah, okay, so what? So let's go back to the top section that we skipped over at the beginning to see what they're evaluating for. It gives a list of things that misanthropes supposedly hate. The list says selfishness, greed, jealousy, stupidity, unfairness, untrustworthiness, and a lack of consideration. Yes to all of those? Who in their right mind wouldn't dislike those things? That's really my question. Who actually supports any of those things? Now, I don't hate them because hate is an active state and I won't waste my time or effort, but I certainly dislike them all. I dislike that people behave that way. If you actually support any of that, let me know in the comments below because, yeah, okay. It then goes on to say that since misanthropes dislike people, they tend to avoid them. But I don't dislike people. I dislike the stupid shit that a lot of people tend to do, but I don't dislike the people themselves. There is a difference. Maybe this is just a dumb quiz. I don't know, but it's like saying, well, if I dislike someone beating me over the head with a baseball bat, well, I must hate humanity. No, that's stupid. Anyway, we're going to stop here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you took the quiz too, go ahead and add your results. Maybe it was all just a big waste of time.